Everyone. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Tiffany and I give our all to this podcast with curating information, researching platforms, and creating a show with the best up-to-date information we can. We have a vested interest in the growth and health of your business and hope you feel the same way about us. We've joined Patreon. Become a patron for as little as $5 a month, and you'll gain access to our community, exclusive behind the scenes, speaker access, publicity for your business, webinar discount opportunities, and more. Please support us so that we can continue supporting you.
Very well done.
Yes, thank you.
Let's get started on today's topic.
Yes. So, hello again, everyone. We are doing a little switcheroo on you, and plot twist, we're changing the subject matter of our podcast today. So in our last podcast, we said we were going to talk about HR, but Tiffany and I discussed it, and we thought we've already discussed it a few times in the past, and we feel like right now there's a lot of conversation. We've been hearing a lot about decision fatigue, analysis paralysis, and we thought that might be a better thing for us to discuss with you all. So it's a situation that both Tiffany and I have both experienced personally, and we've both also had clients come to us because of their inability to choose how to move forward, or to just make basic decisions for their businesses. So this is a pretty important topic for us to discuss today. Don't worry. You're not alone. All great companies experience growing pains. The amount of times I say growing pains is pretty high up there with processes.
I was going to say process, growing pain.
You know what? At the core of it is the business owner. So we're going to spend some time today to discuss what decision fatigue and the analysis paralysis mean and how you can eat that elephant.
Is it eat an elephant?
Isn't it?
I'm thinking eat the frog. A totally different message, right?
Both would be gross. However, eating an elephant, like how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time. Why would anybody say that? First of all, why would you want to eat an elephant? Okay, you know what? Same, right up there with why would you want to eat a frog? But I think the whole idea is eat the frog is supposed to be like eat the frog in the morning, right? Do the hardest thing first in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess you equate your hardest task to a frog.
You know who came up with this? The French. They're gross. I'm kidding.
I don't know. Some countries, they do eat the frog, so I don't understand this. Okay.
They do. But but
I think the idea is that it's supposed to be like a slimy, yucky thing that you have to do.
The worst part of the day, you do it first.
And you do it first, and the rest is, which I live by. I love doing that stuff.
Oh yeah, me too. I always do. I always even eat like the thing that I liked the least. Even as a kid, I ate the thing I liked the least first on my plate, and then worked my way because I got that out of the way. Like if I hated green beans, I would eat the green beans first, or eggplant. I hated eggplant as a kid, and like freaking almost half of the Armenian foods are made with eggplant. Like. What? Why?
You were born in the wrong culture.
Really? So I would always eat the eggplant first, and then I would enjoy the rest of the food.
Oh, okay. Well, you were born to be an entrepreneur, apparently.
Right? But like the whole eating an elephant thing is, how do you eat an elephant? That's, this whole huge, ginormous thing. There's even like the whole elephant in the room situation. Well, you eat it one bite at a time. You got to take one step at a time, one foot in front of the other, one pant leg on first. I don't know.
Speaking of pant legs, making a decision about what you wear is part of stuff that contributes to decision fatigue.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh.
So imagine, right? Like as a business owner, you make hundreds of decisions a day. So I feel like it's like little droplets of water just pile up over time, and you're super busy. You go through the day and you make so many decisions, even starting from when you wake up to deciding what you're going to wear, what you're going to eat. Hopefully your, options are not an elephant, frog, or an eggplant. What class to take, what's your plan for the day, what's your task list for the day, what you need to get your people together to do. And then after work, maybe, what you're going to cook for dinner, what you're going to have with your family, how you're going to spend time together. Like, there's a lot of these decisions that as the day to go on, like you start feeling it. I know I do. I start feeling it where I've said before, like by 6 p.m., I'm just like, my brain is just tired. Like I'm just tired at this point.
I can't put a sentence together.
Yeah, it's not, and it has nothing to do with being physically tired. It's like you can just feel you're a little discombobulated, you're a little bit foggy in the mind, and it feels like your brain just like ran out of energy. And so that is exactly what this decision fatigue kind of feels like. And then certainly I think every once in a while my brain will protest and be like, enough already, like done. I'm done. I'm not making any more decisions. My poor other half gets this part of it, right? Like I go through an entire day, with my staff and clients and everything. By the time I get home at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, he looks at me, he's like, hey babe, what do you want for dinner? I'm like, all right, that's it. It's too much. I can't.
I don't care. Cereal.
Yeah. I was like, I just can't, not another decision. So, all too often it just feels that way. And then once you hit that point too, doesn't it feel like every little decision beyond that point, like even if it's really simple, it just becomes hard, like dinner, right? Or just anything. I feel like it just becomes really labor intensive to decide. Oh, it's hard.
It is.
So, the thing is, like, I don't feel like your brain feels more tired than your body does, but it doesn't mean that your body isn't like affected by it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right? I feel like your body does get affected.
It's a level of stress.
There you go. Anxiety and stress, I feel like it manifests itself physically in that, like this mental exhaustion, will show up in maybe like tight shoulders or like, teeth grinding at night, probably, right? All this anxiety and stress. And then that I think feels like, unless you get a great night's sleep or you're able to relax, it kind of just rolls into the next day. And before you know it just becomes a mood, right? Like you just feel that way the entire week. And, you get a little moody, you get a little grumpy, you get a little irritable. And then at some point you just lead to burnout. Feel like. Yeah.
As one of our great philosophers of our time said, more money, more problems.
That is one great philosopher.
But
he knew what he was saying.
He did. But it's true. I mean, I'm sure all of us have come to this place where we're like, gosh, I really want to enjoy this growth. I really want to enjoy the success, but I'm so tired that I can't.
Yes. And I think I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through that. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't talk about that very often, about going through that, right? Because it's like, we're kind of in this hustle culture, go, 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 the strongest wins, survives, whatever the phrase is.
The strongest eat the weak.
Oh,
maybe. There's a lot of food talk. I'm hungry.
I don't know. For some reason, like, I know it's like, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I haven't eaten yet.
Clearly,
I'm like,
we need to feed you before we start these podcast episodes, though, right? But we're in such a hustle culture. I feel like we just don't feel like it's okay to talk about stuff like that, right? Yeah. Men and women alike. I think we just say, we're just going to break through and we're going to keep going. But really, it just leads into a deterioration of your productivity, your ability to focus, and actually just be able to make good decisions because you're just running on low energy.
And when you start making bad decisions, and a lot of times most companies go through this right at the cusp. So in that 4th, 5th year is when a lot of people go through that, and they start to decide that they're not going to make decisions anymore. They check out, or they make terrible decisions, and then their company goes kaput.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that that's part of the contributing factor behind the saying that most businesses fail within the first 5 years. I don't think
it's a lot of information all at once. It's a lot of activity and information, and it's compounding you all at once, and it leads to burnout really easily. And like you said, you keep going, you make bad decisions, and then it affects your company. I feel like even worse than that is that you end up with this kind of brain fog, or even kind of, like you said, a little bit numbness to not being able to enjoy the journey, right? Because you're so tired all the time, and this is incredibly devastating for small business owners. So it is good to try to prevent it if you can, but then at the same time, don't beat yourself up too bad if you are feeling it, because it's just normal. And typically it just means that you need to give yourself a mental break.
Yes.
Yeah. You just need to stop. That's all it is. And as hard as that could be, because I'm sure there are decisions that are waiting for you to be made at your level, you have to figure out how to just schedule a time to basically stop. And it's not even stuff for a day, right? Like I feel like a day is great, but I feel like when you get to a point where you're really that tired, you need like a full week to
Hmm.
basically re-energize yourself
Yeah. I
and get
mean,
back to normal.
regularly people, like regular employees of businesses or of companies, get a 2 week vacation.
Hmm.
And yet people who own businesses tend to never give themselves a day off.
It's true.
And that's not fair to you. I mean, there's that whole saying of, we're doing a lot of these whole sayings things, but there's the whole saying of like, you put your own mask on before you put on
Oh, oxygen
the
mask.
oxygen
Yeah,
mask. You
yeah,
have to
yeah.
put your own oxygen mask on
Hmm.
before you put on your child's or whatever. The person sitting next to you, depends on whether or not you like them, but but you have to put on your own oxygen mask. You have to take care of yourself first, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of everyone else.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes it's hard to see that when you're living through it.
Naturally,
Yes.
especially women. And I
Yeah.
don't mean to make this a divisive thing between men and women,
Hmm.
but I do find that women will tend to take on more than they actually want to take on, because they want to be seen as the person you can go to for
Hmm.
whatever it is you need. And then we over complicate things, we overschedule
Overcommit.
ourselves, overcommit
Yeah.
to things. And on the other side of that, men aren't great at expressing their emotions or to be vulnerable or weak.
So they could be
Eh,
experiencing it, but just not simply
Simply
anything.
saying
Yes.
it, and then they experience that hitting the brick
Yeah.
wall differently than women do.
Yeah.
But it's still like it's a different type of experience and a different type of perspective, but it
Hmm.
happens both ways. So
Yeah. Well, I think one of the reasons why we're going over what exactly it feels like to get decision fatigue leading up to it, and certainly when you go beyond the point all the way toward burnout, is so that for our listeners, you can recognize the signs within yourself. Because
mm-hmm,
the idea is, if you want to prevent it, but if you don't want to prevent it, you kind of want to stop in its tracks before it kind of spirals out of
mm-hmm,
control, which
mm-hmm,
it will. So
mm-hmm.
part of this is also a lot of self-awareness, so that you realize what stage you're in, so you can kind of rein yourself back and you don't go too far where you have to do something drastic, like, cut off like communication for 2 weeks and, squirrel yourself away in order
Yeah.
to kind of like go back to normal again, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The other thing I see a lot of times with the decision fatigue is analysis paralysis.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
This is where you get stuck and you can't make a decision because you're overthinking, you're overanalyzing, you're just simply overwhelmed by the
Mm-hmm.
options and information available, which can happen easily for business owners because guess what? Like there's so many directions we can go into. There are so many options. There are people who want to tell you their opinions about what you should do and how you should do it. There's a million gurus out there who wants to tell you again what their experience is. It's a lot of information to take in. So a lot of times if you're doing research to get ready to make a decision, you end up in a lot of analysis paralysis, especially if you're already kind of in that stage of decision fatigue where you've been doing
Mm-hmm.
this for some time, you're a little tired, and now you're hit with even more information.
I had to come up with a way for my son has ADD. He has a very high level of ADHD. And it's not a hyperactivity of the body, it's hyperactivity of his brain.
Okay.
And his analysis paralysis could last for a week. So I had to come up with a way to keep him from falling into this vortex of
Mm-hmm.
his, which was to give him no more than two choices. Excuse me. And then if it was yes to that, then or no to that, like those charts
A
that say if you
decision
say yes,
tree?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I literally had to do that. Um, because he can't move forward
Mm-hmm.
without, if you're given more than three things. He's much better at it now because he's a young adult. But when he was a little kid, holy moly, you couldn't say, "Hey, what do you want for dinner?" You'd never get an answer out of it, because in his mind, he's like, "Do I want chicken nuggets or do I want mac and cheese? Well, maybe I want spaghetti. Maybe I want that." And so, like 100 million things would be going through his head, and an hour would go by, and he's like, "I've decided I'm."
Oh, poor
It's like,
thing. My gosh.
yeah.
That's
So
stressful.
you would have to say, "Do you want chicken nuggets or mac and cheese?" And he'd say, "I don't want either one." "Okay, do you want spaghetti or, I don't know, hot dog?" "Hot dog." "Okay, now we know." Like there's four things that he's choosing from, but he's been given them two at a time. And I feel like with clients who have analysis paralysis, I kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, I think some of that has to go into if we would talk a little bit more strategy, how this works in business. Like you and I both work with a clientele who is small business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not gosh, I wouldn't even call them small to medium sized business because it's what, 10 million and under?
Um,
15 million under?
nah, I'd say medium because I do have a few clients that are in the 30 to 50 million.
Okay, so let's just say the majority,
But the
right?
majority of them
Right.
are small business or
Right.
micro business.
Right, micro businesses or startups, and for the businesses that fall within that bracket, I mean, you just know like the the days that the business owner is going through. So on a business end, some of this is very helpful to only
Mm-hmm.
provide certain options, right? I know that a lot of times people in the service industry, they like to give you as many options as possible so you can design your own thing. And
Yeah.
in my experience, as I done business longer, I realized that look, if somebody's coming to you as an expert, they want you to basically limit the options for them
Yeah.
and give them the best three choices
Yes.
so they can pick one and they don't have to pick from the array of unlimited choices.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started doing that, it became a lot easier to actually close clients
Mm-hmm.
because I think it almost, for them, it's almost just so much easier to say one of three instead of
Yeah.
going to another provider who's like, I will do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know what I want. That's
Yeah.
why I'm asking you, what is it that I want? What is it that I need? Tell me what I
Mm-hmm.
need and just tell me what I can choose from,
Yeah,
right?
this ain't the
So
Cheesecake Factory.
yeah.
You don't have want to have
don't,
20
don't,
pages of things to choose from.
definitely do not go to a place like the Cheesecake Factory if you're
Oh,
already decision fatigued enough,
oh
right?
my
Because
heavens. It's impossible to pick anything.
way too many J pages to choose from.
Good golly. I
Oh
went
my
there. I've been there
gosh.
one time, and that was probably going to be the last time I went. I went there because I was like, you know what? I never had cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory. I think I'm going to go and have some cheesecake with my little one. And
Here's a 50
I was like,
flavors of cheesecake
I
you
don't
can
know which
choose
one I
from.
want. We
Yeah.
ended up getting 6 slices for like to share with everyone. He and I had like one bite out of each, and then we took the rest of it home because I don't know which one I want. So yeah, I don't want to be a Cheesecake Factory kind of company, and I don't think anybody would want to be that because you're kind of setting yourself up for failure.
You and your clients, to be quite
Absolutely.
honest. Yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you know your business well, you know your clientele well, you should know what your clients want and need,
Mm-hmm.
not you tell me and then we're going to go figure it out together. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all right, what you got?
Okay,
Over
so
to you.
oh, over to me.
Hmm.
But before I start, because we dove right into this, I didn't even get into our disclaimer.
Oh, well, there's that.
Yeah. Our disclaimer is available in both our show notes and on our website. It should be referred to before and or after this podcast. I should probably note that in there. Attorneys would not be too
It is
happy
now
if I did
noted.
not. Yes.
Duly noted. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, yes. Okay, so we've already gone over what decision fatigue is and what the definition of that is. Having to make decisions about big things, little things, important things, not so important things, all day long, and by the end of the day, your brain is feeling like mush. This, as a business owner, can be detrimental to the growth of your business because if you start to have decision fatigue and you're being approached by your management team or your C-suite or whomever it is, if you've got a board and they're looking to you to make the final decision, and you're like, nah, whatever you want, I don't care, whatever you guys want. If you go into that world, it's really hard to come out of that. I'll like whatever you like. I'll do whatever you do. And then your power as the owner of the company starts to wane, and the way that people see you starts to wane because then you're creating a culture of people saying, he's not going to make a decision or she's not going to make a decision. So I'm not even going to bother. Or I can't even get them to decide on white or pink flowers at the, where a florist. I mean, I can't get them to decide to order white or pink flowers.
Right.
So I'm just going to make the decision for them. You don't want to set up that kind of culture. You don't want to set up that kind of expectation of you. So you have to start to see where these warning signs are coming from. So some of the warning signs are increased procrastination, feeling overwhelmed even by the simplest choice, may it be in business or in your personal life, difficulty concentrating, decreased creativity, and I'd even say even some levels of depression might start to set in.
That's when you start feeling numb and you're not enjoying anything.
For sure.
Even though you could be in a situation where you know you're supposed to be happy or elated or like just joyful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what can you do with decision fatigue? You can prioritize and delegate. I can say that when the last time I started to experience even just a little bit of decision fatigue, I started to create a position for someone in my company to be the decision maker in things that I didn't feel were where I was serving, where myself was serving best. I'm not saying this right, but you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't the best person for that. Again, I haven't eaten.
I was supposed to say, do we need to put a food analogy in there? Would that work?
Something.
Oh.
But anyway, so I just didn't feel that I was going to be serving the company best if I were the person to go to. So I created a position for someone else whom I thought was much better equipped to be that person. And they make all those decisions now that I don't have to make. And I trust them. And it was a very good decision for me to make, to have them be the decision maker. So I delegated those tasks. And by the way, it'll help you conserve energy, which in the end, that's what you're losing is energy. Set decision-making boundaries. Limit the number of decisions you make each day. That's an important one. You have to establish specific times or blocks of time for making decisions. So this is going to prevent decision overload. It'll allow for better focus. So maybe like, I don't know, a lot of people do Monday, Friday office days, or maybe like Wednesdays can be the days that you guys do your board meetings, or maybe your internal team meetings, and that's when a lot of your decisions can get made. Or even if you don't have a board or you don't have a staff, that can just be the day of the week that you make the major decisions. There's lots of little decisions.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're saying to like, to basically block out days to do major decisions that require a lot of analysis and brain power, right? But then obviously you're going to make little decisions all throughout the week. It's not like stop making decisions until Monday or Friday, right? Like that doesn't, that's not reality.
No,
right?
no. Yeah. But those major decisions, I think it would be helpful to block out time so you can really put more thought towards it, and you'll have more energy to be able to put more thought towards it. Simplify your choices. Reduce the number of options. So that whole two, then three, or whatever, just reduce it. If there are non-critical decisions, again, prioritize and delegate. Create a decision framework. Create a clear structure that aligns your business's values and goals. Take breaks and rest. Regular breaks are necessary. Because like we said, your brain needs a break, and your brain cannot be breaking while you're sleeping. You can't be like, oh, well, I'm just going to, take a rest and close your eyes and then wake up and be 100% again. No, you need to take time out for yourself. I feel like if there's anything that we've learned during COVID time is that we can make time for ourselves, and you should be making time for yourself. Now, we're going to go into identifying analysis paralysis.
Oh, wait, what? I am surprised you didn't say anything about processes.
I haven't gotten to it.
Okay, all right. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, all right. We're going to wait till you get there.
Yeah, and when it gets to the apps and recommendations part, that's where.
Okay. I thought that's what we were going with the last section there.
No. Now I'm going to go into analysis paralysis. Okay. But I kind of feel like I should be shaking it up with people, keep you guys on your toes. Anyway, so indecisiveness is analysis paralysis. So delaying decisions, even for relatively minor matters, it's a common sign of analysis paralysis. Information overload. So you're feeling overwhelmed by the amount of information that's available to you, and you can't make sense of it. If you have fear of making a mistake, many years ago, there was this woman who she had come to one of my workshops, and she was like, oh, I really want to start this kind of business, but I'm really afraid of failure. And I very matter of factly, which I don't know if it was the right thing to do, but hey, whatever, like take the girl out of Detroit, can't take the Detroit out of the girl. I said, well, if you haven't started this business yet, you've already failed, and you can only go up from here. She was like, excuse me? And I go, you've already failed yourself by not taking a step. And that whole saying, like, you only regret those things that you haven't done, not so much the things that you have done. And
sure,
absolutely. So don't be afraid of making a mistake. You have to make a choice. And you never really know whether or not something was a right or wrong choice. So either way, a choice has to be made. Lack of progress. So recognize that there's a lack of progress or growth in your business. If you're not growing, you're dying, as the saying goes. We've got a lot of sayings in today's episode.
A lot of
A
sayings.
lot of sayings. So, how do you overcome analysis paralysis in growing your business? Set clear goals. Clearly define your business's long-term and short-term goals. Having a clear sense of direction is going to make it easier to filter out irrelevant choices. Focus on key metrics. Identify key performance indicators, KPIs, that directly impact your business's growth. Concentrate on the most relevant data rather than getting lost in excessive analyses. Time constraints. Give yourself time limits for making decisions. Like you only have until the end of the day to make this decision. Force it upon yourself. Set alarms on your phone. These things are available to you. Seek input from others. There have been many times when I have felt like I'm at a fork in a road and I've come to Tiffany and said, hey, what would you do if you were in my situation? You've got mentors, you've got advisors. There's got to be somebody that you can talk to. You're not alone. And if you are alone, start creating your village. And then start with smaller decisions. Begin making decisions with less critical things to build your confidence so that you can start making larger choices. And embrace iterative decision making. Recognize that not all decisions are permanent. One of my sayings is the only thing we can't come back from is death. Everything else has a solution. So,
well, if you want to put it that way, okay.
I know it's been kind of morbid and gross today, but what can I say? I'm hungry, and who knows what's going to come out of my mouth.
Well, so it's interesting. I mean, I think that a lot of that is great. I think you were describing basically setting a time for yourself. I think they call it time boxing in a sense, which is if you know that you often can come up against this and you don't want to waste time spinning in circles, like set yourself, 15 minutes and say, I'm going to do my best in 15 minutes to come up with this. If I can't, then here are my options. Talk to somebody.
Absolutely.
Options is, this and that, right? And that way you don't end up spinning, which is, where the complete waste of time is and more energy is spent.
Yes. And you got to trust yourself. You got to trust that you've come this far by making decisions. So who knows what the future will bring you. You got to make a decision one way or the other, door 1, 2, or 3. And you got to also embrace imperfection. I always bring this back to my children because they're my test subjects. I used to.
Do they know that? That's the question.
Absolutely. I tell them all the time. Like, you passed. Very good. So when I started having, my daughter was 11 when she started washing the dishes. Like, that was her chore.
Okay.
And she didn't load anything correctly, the way I thought was correct. She didn't wash things the way I thought they should be washed. But instead of being like, I'll do it, just stop it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to embrace imperfection. She's putting the spoons with the forks, and I just got to let it go. She will learn eventually. And then the same with my middle son, and now my youngest is coming up the ranks, and I have embraced imperfection. Same thing with my company. There are some things that, maybe they're not exactly perfect, but I got to forgive myself. I've made it this far, and they're not detrimental. They're small, but hey, it's okay. I forgive me.
Well, you have to make decisions with the best use of information and the only set of information you have at the time, right? Hindsight's always 20/20. So
sure.
Somehow you look back and everything's like, oh, why didn't I think of this? And honestly, you just didn't at that time, right? Mood, situation, whatever the case may be, you just didn't. I found it a lot easier to be patient with other people's imperfections, I guess you can say, than my own. So I find it like, yes, you're right. You got to let other people make the decision, sometimes make the wrong decisions for them to, hedged risk, of course. You don't want your employees to be flying off the rails and making devastating decisions in the business. But yeah, I find it a lot harder to forgive my own imperfections for decision making because as a business owner, oftentimes your decisions are big decisions, right? They're not, they're highly impactful to your business. So, but still, even in that regards, that's also another reason why you have to protect your mind and your mental energy so much. You can't let it go down the drain. You can't let it get to a point where you're burnt out, depressed, anxious, stressed, because then you're not at your best self to make the best decision.
Yes. But I also think that we both have in mind business owners who may recognize that they're not great at decision making, or maybe they recognize that they have analysis paralysis. What about those clients that really, really suck at this and don't recognize how detrimental they are to their own business? Like, what do we do with them?
Yeah, you're on your own.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
That's what I said. I was like, nope, not my hole, not my shovel.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm not saying that. If it was a good friend, then yes. But honestly, as business owners and peers to peers, which there is a level of separation there. Look, we're all accountable for all our own business. So we're accountable for our own personalities and however that would reflect on our business. If you haven't been told so far that you're terrible at this one part of business and you're not aware yourself, sorry. That's too bad. But that's the great thing about most entrepreneurs, most business owners, is that we're incredibly self-aware and we always want to grow and learn. And so we try to elicit feedback from others. And part of it is that, right? As I learned as a business owner, I would be very lucky if I had a peer who is willing to give me unsolicited feedback. Like there's only a handful of people that I think I would take that from. I saw that. She's not wrong, but I saw that. But there's like a very small handful of people I would take it from.
Yeah, me too.
But it depends. Like, take it from in a sense of like they can just say it in whichever way they want to say it, and I just wouldn't take offense to it because I know that they mean well. There are a lot of people I think I come across in business that I thought would be able to would like tell me ahead of time. And they won't, right? They, for whatever reason, and it's understandable. It's not their job to do it. But at the same time, it just made me learn that, look, it's important for me to hold myself accountable for my own actions. And if I really want feedback, I need to actually solicit it, meaning I need to ask somebody plainly, give me feedback, and not just expect that or be entitled to other people's opinions around you, right? That you didn't ask for. So I've made a few bad decisions, certainly in my experience as a business owner. And I've had people who has said, oh, like kind of like a little bit after the fact, like, yeah, I thought it was kind of weird that you did that. And I'm like, what? Why would you not say anything before I did that? That would have been really helpful, right? Yeah. But I get it. It's not. They may not feel it's their place. Maybe I'm like closed off, and I didn't allow them to tell me anything either.
I feel like it's kind of like a relationship. Like you break up with the guy, and then they're like, "Oh, I hated that guy. He was such a jerk." And it's like, seriously, like you never thought to say anything to me. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those situations where we're emotionally involved in our businesses.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that we hear people say, we don't hear.
Yeah, we don't actually hear it, right? So, and that it's really tough. But hey, so if you find yourself that I don't know if you're listening to this and you're kind of going, oh, is that me? Am I this terrible at making decisions and I don't know it, and I'm frustrating my entire staff? Honestly, there's signs, right? Yeah. A lot of it is what we had said. There's signs too, because your staff will exhibit frustration
for
after
sure.
a long period of time. You'll probably experience turnover, especially of your A employees, your superstar employees. At some point, they may have been trying to tell you, you're not listening to them. What you're doing is kind of reflecting on them, and maybe it's creating extra work for them. If you're starting to see turnover, especially if your A employee quits on you, dude, that's a big wake up call.
That's a big wake up call. Culture, if your company is feeling negative, if your company is feeling stressful, if your company is feeling in your environment within your company is feeling stressful or negative, it's likely you. You've created the culture, you've created the tone. And a lot of this can stem from decision fatigue, where you've decided I'm just not going to make decisions anymore. Or I'm not going to make valuable decisions anymore.
Or you just could be making a rash of really bad decisions. And that'll be reflected in your staff. Maybe they start being complacent. Maybe especially if you have people who like start out and they they seem like they could take a lot of initiative, and they do. They're always coming up with ideas, and that eventually tapers off, and they become complacent. Dude, that's on you, to be quite honest. It's something that you're doing at this point as the leader of the organization to cause that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
But
if you don't recognize it, I can't help you.
Yeah, nobody can help you.
No.
Nope. Not anybody's place to help you but yourself.
It's a you.
It is. And I do avoid clients like that. I have to say, I do.
I keep trying.
You don't. You have a much bigger heart than I do. I avoid those kind of clients.
I know, but
because I just don't think I don't think I have the ability to do what's needed there.
I need to start. I need to start stopping. I need to stop.
Just say no.
I know. I need to start.
I keep telling you this. I'm like, girl, just say no. Just say no. Stop it.
I have to rescue everyone.
She really does. She has such a big heart, and I'm just sitting there going, yeah, not me. I'm sorry.
Not her hole, not her shovel.
That's true. And moving on.
We're going to move on to famous example, because I kind of feel like we did our whole raw truth, and we did a lot. So this has been a different episode. I'm not really giving. It is different. Yeah. Anyway,
gotta switch it up everyone.
Famous example. In each episode, we like to connect the famous example to our discussion to help you relate our talking points on a more global or well-recognized scale, revealing the dots between the living room startup and the success story on the cover of Forbes. Sometimes we use real examples of either a famous person or successful business owners of today or in history, and sometimes we use examples of people who have inspired us and have inspired today's discussion.
So speaking of the cover of Forbes, all the people I'm going to mention probably have one point or another graced the cover of Forbes. But the idea is, I've heard this before from the beginning, and it always made me chuckle, but there's a lot of truth behind it. And honestly, it's probably something similar I do, just not quite as extreme, is people who wear the same thing every day. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs that adopt a very consistent wardrobe so they can eliminate having to spend mental energy on what they consider frivolous, which is trying to decide what you're going to wear every single day. So, Mark Zuckerberg did this. He wore his gray tee and a hoodie or something like that every single day. Steve Jobs, black turtleneck. We've all seen it in the jeans and the New Balance sneakers. Classic Steve Jobs. Again,
hopefully my son doesn't listen to this, but my son does the same thing. The amount of black shirts and black shorts he has, he wears pretty much the same thing every day. Or it's not the same thing. It's
a very tiny variation of basically the same color palette, the same fabric. So you walk in your closet and you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking what you're going to do.
He has black, white, and blue.
Go with it, right?
Exactly. He has black, white, and blue shorts, black, white, and blue shirts. He has probably 3 pairs of each. So he has like a wardrobe.
Yeah, I'm very tempted to do the same thing.
He wears the same thing, or the same, like a t-shirt and shorts literally every day. And
I feel like okay, so nothing against your son, but he's young, so he can probably get away with it. But I feel like as an adult, you have to be like uber famous for you to get away with something like that without people going, what? Did she just wear the same outfit the entire week?
Maybe. I almost feel like men can get away with it.
That's true.
More so than women can.
Yes.
Because if I were to wear this every day, you would notice. But if a man were wearing the
same
black
suit every day, they just look put together, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of suits, Albert Einstein wore the same gray suit for the same purpose. And then Barack Obama also limited his wardrobe choices, so he only wore blue or gray suits to basically, again, to combat decision fatigue in his very busy schedule.
I think it's very smart.
So my only alternative that I ended up using, because I cannot stand the million decisions to make while shopping, is I use something like Stitch Fix, right?
Yes.
Where they basically coordinate all my wardrobe for me, so that way I can just buy the stuff that all works together, and I can walk in my closet, grab a few things, and namely everything I'm wearing today is all Stitch Fix, and that's then I'm done.
That's why I love that outfit.
Thank you.
Everything Stitch Fix I see, I love.
By the way, Stitch Fix, if you want to sponsor an episode, I would totally take that. Or just sponsor our wardrobe.
You use me as a test subject.
But no, I never thought. I mean, I just was one of those people who just did not look forward to the mall shopping. Some people, I feel like that's therapeutic for them. For me, it was definitely just yet another thing I had to go figure out. And so, I was that close to being, the black turtleneck and jeans girl, because I almost had enough of it all. So,
no, I get it. I'm kind of sort of I'm going in that direction. If there's a top that I like, I'll buy it in the 3 or 4 colors. This tends to be my palette,
Mm-hmm.
and it works. And then I'll get a pop of color every now and then, and
Yeah.
I wear pretty much the same thing a lot. So yeah, no, I get it. When researching for our show, I already had 2 companies in mind. One was Blockbuster and the other was Toys R Us.
Mm.
2 companies that were complete behemoths at one time and seemed impossible to fell because of their inability to make decisions. Neither company wanted to change, and both companies thought if we just keep going in the same direction, eventually things will go back to the way that they were. For the sake of time, I'll concentrate on one failed company, Toys R Us. Granted, there were several reasons why Toys R Us failed. There was poor management, too much merchandise, other levels of mismanagement that contributed to their fall, but inevitably, they held steadfast on who they always were, as opposed to coming to a decision as to who they could become, and eventually succumb to their competitors such as Walmart, Target, and Amazon. Now, I don't believe the reason why those 3 companies excelled is because they sold more than just toys. Like they sell a lot of different things. I really think that they excelled, and went straight into the stratosphere of success because they adapted to consumer needs. They changed. They made a lot of decisions. I mean, how many iterations of Target have we seen? Right. And iterations of Amazon, if you've been with Amazon or if you've been shopping with Amazon for a long time. I remember when there were a whole lot more books and music and things like that. And then now you can buy literally anything from there. Um, there are couple of fantastic articles about Toys R Us that we will link in the show that I think you really should read as a warning to anyone who thinks adapting and changing is unnecessary in their field. So when I say that, I mean, decision making isn't just about should we use this or should this kind of toilet paper in the bathroom or that type of toilet paper in the bathroom. Sometimes decision is about pivoting your company in order to survive. And I tell you, literally every field, every business, every career requires a level of pivoting in order to survive.
And if our listeners are small business owners, you all know how often we have to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Your plan will change every 6 months at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the first few years until you get stabilized, which
Yes.
is years down the road, anyways. But those pivotal decisions that you make are so important that you really want to be at your top. Top of
Mm-hmm.
your game, basically, right?
Yes.
To be able to make those decisions, which you cannot make if you are coming from weeks upon weeks of decision fatigue, paralysis analysis, or just burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because
So
no one's
take care of
coming.
yourself.
No one's coming to help. Anyway, there's a saying that goes, put your money where your mouth is. And we are going to drill down a bit further here to connect what we've
Yeah.
discussed at a granular level to tangible sources you can take to get you to the next level.
Yeah. So I think one of the things is this is something I personally use, and I need to use it a little bit more often now, is that I run everything by my calendar.
Mm.
If it's not on my calendar, yeah, I'm going to forget that for sure. So I actually schedule time in to be
Mhm.
like disconnected and off.
Yep, me too.
Or I schedule more often. Well, I probably schedule less time in to be off. I probably should do a little bit more of that. But I definitely schedule time in to be creative.
Mhm.
Right. So there are creative days I have on my calendars. Typically it's like Monday and Friday
Mhm.
where I block out the entire day where I'm not in meetings. I'm not in like making a million decisions. I'm doing things. I'm not doing things to distract myself. And that day is simply free.
Mhm.
And then, magically when you have a free day like that, where you're not pulled in a million different directions from the moment you wake up, you find your creativity and you're able to design and strategize and plan for
Mhm.
things. And then, so outside of that, I also do every once in a while, at least once a quarter, basically just plan a day or two where I'm just unplugged,
Mhm.
where I don't talk about business. I don't think about business because that's usually what I think and breathe.
Mhm.
I don't talk to other people about business. I don't even hang out with business people, period, right? I'm holed up somewhere doing something completely unrelated to business just to give myself time to wind down. And I will tell you the crazy thing is I have to convince myself to do that every time because it never feels productive until I'm done with the couple days.
Mhm. I hear
I'm
you.
like a child. I don't know what to say. My mind is like a child,
Right.
right? Outside of that, I've used time boxing quite a bit. So time boxing is basically setting yourself like a time limit to
Mhm.
make decisions. I actually time box for a lot of things because I know that I can get tripped and fall into my own mind and spiral out of thinking. So I just, good old alarm clock to set a certain amount of time, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, to basically do what I need to do. And if I don't have a result by then I know that I need to take another direction and try something different. So I just don't end up doing the same thing over and over again and trying to get a different result, which is the definition of crazy. So they say. Yeah. So last but not least, book I would recommend. It's called The Brain Fog Fix. I've actually read this a couple of times. I really like it. It's by Dr. Mike Dow. And it kind of goes through a little bit the science of the brain fog, and he has scientifically supported solutions to help alleviate brain fog. And I just thought it was super useful.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, personally, I think that the best way to tackle decision fatigue or analysis paralysis is making lists.
See, close enough processes. I knew she was going to get to that at some point. I was like, I am shocked. The P word did not present itself earlier in this podcast.
I know.
Yes, thank you. Checklist.
I was working.
See, I actually had that on my list, but I was like, something tells me she's gonna have it. So okay, I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yes, that may just be me. Perhaps reading a book or an app would be more preferable to you to get you into the habit of making decisions. And if that's the case, then certainly read Brain Fog. Or there are a couple of apps I suggest. For example, there's one called Random Decision Maker, which is available on Android, and one called
what is that?
Yeah, and one called Tiny Decisions that's available in iOS. Gosh. It's like a fancy coin toss. It helps you decide between shirts or decide what to eat for dinner.
Okay, see, I'm totally envisioning Two-Face in Batman now. Okay, all right.
Well, what it does is it gets you into the habit.
Hopefully, it's a little bit more fancier than that.
Yeah, it helps you make decisions quickly and efficiently. And once you get into that habit, then you can start like tackling the larger stuff. Because I mean, there are some people who really cannot make a decision. So there you go. If you need something that's a little bit more complex, you can look into Protagonist Decision Making app. The framework allows you to enter different tiers of criteria and then assure that each of those factors are given proper weight. The visualization of this app, in my opinion, is the best part of it, but in reality, it's like a backdoor version of a project management tool. Lastly, there is an app called Decision Crafting on Android, and it's called Definitive Choice on iOS. It helps you if you're struggling with a number of different factors. You can add as many options and criteria as you want, and you can assign a number rating of those factors. It'll do the math and help offer you a decision based on those ratings. Like I said, personally, I think you can't go wrong with list making or some form of a project management tool. I personally love Notion. I also love Process Street, but we're not going to talk about that again.
That's the other P.
I know. Or just use good old pen and paper.
I use Evernote, so yeah. Pick your best choice, right?
Whatever
works for you.
I really think that you have to practice it in order to make it a habit. There's a saying, set yourself up for success. So before you walk into the room, are you setting yourself up for success? When you are looking at these decisions, which one is going to set you up for success? That might help you a little bit more in deciding what you're going to do or to make a decision at all. How are you setting yourself up for success? And then from there, it may change your perspective, it may change your approach, but in any case, it'll at least help you create a habit.
Well, there you go, folks.
Yeah. Please join us for our next episode where we will probably discuss how going cheap can get very expensive.
Oh, that would be so good.
I know.
Oh, lessons I had to learn myself too.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about what it means to outsource overseas as opposed to here, the quality of work that you get between a high level and a low level service provider, and all kinds of stuff. So
I think it's more than just you get what you pay for. I think there's a lot of unintended consequences that you don't think about. And honestly, I've seen so many businesses, not because like they're complaining about my rates or anything like that. But the fact that their growth of their business has been hindered by the fact that they had this mindset, scarcity mindset, to be quite honest, which is usually what leads to kind of the cheap mindset. So,
Yep. So, that's going to be fun. Please show us your support by following us on your preferred podcast platform, social media, and YouTube. We'd love for you to also share our episodes. All of our links are posted below. Until next time, mind your business behind your small business, because all great successes start small. Bye.